Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. Today we're going to be looking at a piece by the artist Wumples. He is an AI-generated artist working primarily in the medium of those generated renderings. And so this is one of his older works, and we're going to take a look at one of his newer works as well. And in this piece, we're going to be talking about the mythological symbolism of the Pheonix. We're going to talk a little bit about center emphasis. We're going to talk about fire and the energy of rebirth. We're going to talk about kind of the painterly texture characteristic of AI art, and then we're also going to compare it to one of his previous works as well. So let's jump right into it. So in your initial introduction, you're met with this Pheonix, which just commands the center region of the spatial composition. When a piece of art is placed in the center, it's always meant, almost always meant, to really emphasize its form or elevate the importance to the highest degree possible. So what you'll see here is that we see an emphasis not only through placement in the center region of the spatial composition, but we also see an emphasis through this kind of dark on light contrast of the red form of our Pheonix here. And this Pheonix is definitely the largest form within the work, and that really accents its form and calls our attention to it to the highest degree possible. So in this work, you'll see kind of this painterly flow texture that really just seems like endless layering on top of one another. It really reminds me of kind of a rough acrylic painting, and what you'll see is that this flow or this texture is actually quite characteristic of AI generated art. So if you jump into something like the Dream app by Wumples and you create your very own AI picture, all you have to do is just put in some text or a phrase or a full sentence even, and it'll create a piece of art for you. And so what you'll see is that the AI creates this with this painterly flow, which is quite characteristic of that medium. So if you see this and you see this kind of, it's hard to make out exactly what the form is, and you see this kind of painterly flow, you can almost always guess that it's created by AI. And I actually theorize that someday people will kind of on purpose create this painterly flow to try and mimic what the AI has created. And I think that'll be quite interesting, just like glitch art tries to recreate screen-based malfunctions. So what you'll see is that this texture or this painterly flow within the piece gives us a high sense of energy. There's no like straight lines here, right? It's all kind of jagged, but it's also flowing, and it's just moving in every sense of direction there. And so that, of course, invigorates us to the highest degree possible, gives us a lot of visual energy, and really kind of course, energizes our mood and just brings us in. And I think that also works alongside the high attention color red. Red always calls your attention instantly because it's such a striking and such a kind of visceral color. So I think that's also important to note whenever taking a look at this piece. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Pheonix in a second, but just to start off, we see these tones of fire here. Of course, you have the red, you have the orangish, and you have that brighter yellowish white light here. And those are all quite characteristic of fire. And fire is quite interesting because, of course, it mesmerizes us. It gives us light. It gives us, allows us to move through the dark. But at the same time, just as many things with Mother Nature, it can also be extremely destructive. It's kind of that climax of destruction, which then gives rise for a new life. And we could think of this in a few different ways. We could think of this literally with wildfires. So whenever a fire moves through the forest, it clears all those trees, but it's also clearing the path for what we call pioneer species. So we see that quite literally in nature, but we also see it kind of metaphorically, say, in the individual journey of a person. Whenever you're moving through life, and we'll go a bit deeper in that here in a second. Whenever you're moving through life and you go through, say, a tough time, or you have a tough experience and you come out victorious, you've kind of been burned in the fire, and as a result of that, there is this sense of rebirth. And whenever you change your mind about something, or whenever you grow as a person, that is always a symbolic rebirth of a new character or a new type of person that is always evolving within you. So I think that's important to note. And with that fire, like we said, the pioneer species, the rebirth is really important with that because, of course, the forest is cleared, but there is that rebirth in the form of new pioneer species that come and grow once more. So I think that's also important to note. So, of course, we see the title of this piece is Field or Pheonix fields. And the Pheonix is a very, very ancient mythological symbol. It's likely been around for much longer, but it's mostly been identified in ancient Egypt. And the ancient Egyptians, the Pheonix never lived for more than about 500 years, but the ancient Egyptians were one of the first, if not the first, to really solidify it as a concrete mythological symbol in art and culture and literature and all of that in between. And it's quite important because the Pheonix, like we said before, it can be both literal and kind of symbolic or metaphorical. And so the Pheonix is a priceless reminder of the importance of death, but also the importance of renewal and rebirth. And what you'll see here, of course, it is titled Pheonix Fields. So you see a large Pheonix here in the center, and then we see what appear to be other Phoenixes around them as well. And this actually reminded me of the Elysian Fields, and let me know if you guys see that as well. But the Elysian Fields were essentially where legends went to die, and the fields are where all of those legends had passed. And so what I see in, say, the Pheonix Fields, for example, is that even though you have the field of phoenixes which are about to die and of course rebirth, they have a tremendous potential to impact far beyond their life. So that fire is such a energetic burst of energy or a energetic burst of light, and that can really impact its surroundings. So I see that as a pretty important metaphor for, say, personal impact on your community, your surroundings, and even day-to-day individuals that you talk to. So I think that's also important to note. And so finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the AI generative medium, and it's quite amazing because we're seeing programs like Wombo and programs like Dream really show us just what's possible with this. This, I believe, was created either in Disco Diffusion or it was created in Dream by Wombo. But DALL-E is something I've been looking quite recently, and DALL-E doesn't have that painterly flow, but it does have much more kind of abstract and complex ideas. And so we're really, really looking closely at that. There's a ton of stuff happening within the generative medium, and a lot of people are getting in through art through this AI generative medium because the bounds are just limitless, and it's quite exciting what we're seeing before us. So I think that's also important to note whenever taking a look at this work here. Of course, it is generated by AI. So now we're going to compare two of the artist's works. Let's bring this right over here. So this piece was showcased a little while ago. I believe it was about 2 weeks. And this is also coming from Wumples. And the difference between these two works is this is just kind of a raw AI generated piece. And then this one is generated by AI, but there's also multiple levels of, say, Photoshop editing, as well as even running it through AI more and more to create more of that. So we already showcased this piece. If you guys want to look a bit deeper, we have it on our YouTube channel here. But the difference within these works is that this one is just that raw generative piece, and then this one was generated by AI and then edited in Photoshop and then put through AI once more. So you can see just completely different scenes here. Of course, stunning, vivid colors whenever we're talking about, say, the neon blue, green, and purple, and then that striking red color. But these are the two pieces that Wumples has in the Apollo Art Archive. It's been a pleasure to study these works and just some really, really amazing works coming from this artist. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. We talked about the ancient symbolism of the mythological phoenix. We talked a little bit about AI visual energy. We talked about the potential for AI art in the future. Talked about Center Commandment and also the striking red color. And then we compared it to a work that has much more edits on it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out some of Wumple's other works. He has a ton of stuff he's working on, and he's always trying to push the boundary to get something new out. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.